Have you ever watched someone who works harder than anyone you know get treated like they don't even matter? Have you felt that sting when a person with money and power looks right through you, like your struggles, your kids, your dignity mean nothing? That moment when a single father finally drew a line and said the words that stopped a billionaire cold still echoes for a reason. If stories like this move you, do me a quick favor. Subscribe to Whispers of Heart 0.2, hit that like button, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Your support keeps these true feeling stories coming. Marcus Reynolds was 38, a single dad of two, and bone-tired most days. His wife had passed 3 years earlier after a short, brutal fight with illness, leaving him with a 7-year-old girl who still asked for her mom at night, and a 10-year-old boy who tried too hard to be the man of the house. They lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of a mid-sized American city, the kind of place where the rent climbed every year and the grocery bills never seemed to shrink. Marcus worked 2 jobs. Days he drove for a delivery company. Nights he cleaned offices in a gleaming downtown tower that belonged to people who never had to count coins for milk. One rainy Thursday, the night shift ran late. Marcus was still mopping the executive floor when the elevator opened and a tall man in a perfect suit stepped out, phone pressed to his ear, voice sharp and impatient. That man was Julian Hartwell, tech billionaire, face from magazine covers, the kind of person whose name opened doors Marcus would never walk through. Julian's assistant had gone home. He needed coffee, files, and someone to deal with a spill on the carpet outside his office. His eyes landed on Marcus like the cleaner was furniture. "You, get me a black coffee, no foam, and clean that mess up before I trip over it. And hurry, I don't have time for this." Marcus straightened, rag still in his hand. He had kids waiting at home with a neighbor who charged by the hour. He had already worked 14 hours. But he nodded, went for the coffee, wiped the floor. Julian barely glanced at him when he returned. Then the billionaire's phone slipped from his hand and cracked against the marble. "Great. Just great. Pick that up and find me another one. And don't just stand there looking lost. Move." Something in Marcus tightened. He had spent years swallowing comments like that so he could keep the lights on and the kids fed. But tonight the weight of being invisible finally pressed too hard. He set the broken phone carefully on the desk, met Julian's eyes, and said, clear and steady, "I'm not your maid. Stop mocking me. I clean this building so I can raise my kids. I am not here for you to talk to like dirt." The hallway went quiet. Julian's face flushed. For a second it looked like the kind of explosion that ends careers. Then the billionaire's phone lit up with an urgent call. He turned away, muttering, and Marcus finished his shift in silence, certain he would be fired by morning. He wasn't. The next night the building manager pulled him aside and said only that Mr. Hartwell had left instructions for Marcus to report to the executive suite at 7. Marcus's stomach dropped. He kissed his kids goodbye, told the neighbor he might be late, and rode the elevator with his heart pounding. Julian Hartwell stood by the window looking out at the city lights. When he turned, the arrogance was gone. In its place was something tired and almost embarrassed. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I was wrong. Completely. My daughter, she's 8. She has a condition that keeps her in and out of hospitals. Last night I got the call that her numbers were dropping again while I was barking orders at you. I took it out on the first person I saw. That was you. And you didn't deserve it." Marcus stayed quiet, waiting. Julian continued, voice lower. "I asked around. People here say you're the only one who stays late without complaining, who checks on the security guards, who leaves extra cleaning supplies for the morning crew. One of the night guys told me you once fixed a broken coffee machine for free so the early staff wouldn't have to wait. Small things. Kind things. I haven't done a small kind thing in longer than I can remember." He held out an envelope. Inside was a check, enough to cover 6 months of rent, and then some, and a handwritten note offering Marcus a daytime position in the company's facilities team with better hours and benefits. "No strings," Julian said. "Just, I saw the way you stood up for yourself without hate. And I realized I've been so focused on building things that I forgot how to treat people. My daughter asked me last week why I never smile at the nurses. I didn't have an answer. You gave me one without meaning to." Marcus didn't take the check right away. He looked at the man who had spoken to him like nothing the night before and now stood there open and human. "I appreciate it," he said. "But the job means more than the money. My kids need me home for dinner more than they need a bigger apartment. If the hours are real, I'll take it." They shook hands. Over the following months, Marcus moved to the day shift. He still cleaned, still worked hard, but now he left the building in time to help with homework and cook simple meals. Julian's daughter improved slowly. One afternoon, Marcus was called upstairs again. The little girl was there, pale but smiling, holding a drawing of a stick-figure man with a mop and the words, "Thank you for being kind to my dad." Julian stood behind her, quiet. Kindness had not erased the hard years or the empty chair at the dinner table. It had not made rent disappear or grief vanish. What it did was quieter and stronger. It turned a moment of humiliation into a bridge. It reminded a man who had everything that people who have almost nothing still carry dignity. And it showed a single father that standing up for yourself does not mean closing your heart. Marcus still tells his kids the same thing every night before bed. Treat people the way you want to be treated when you're tired and no one is watching. Because one ordinary evening in an empty office hallway, a tired father chose both strength and grace, and a billionaire learned that the most powerful thing he could build was not another company. It was a better version of himself. That is the quiet power of kindness. It does not always arrive with trumpets. Sometimes it arrives in a cracked phone on marble floors, in a father who refuses to be mocked, and in the soft decision to keep a heart open even after it has been bruised. Carry that with you. Offer it freely. You never know whose life or whose soul you might change simply by refusing to let hardness win.